welcome to this episode of the DGD Podcast. As always, the DGD himself, Robert Reynolds. We've got a lot to cover today, but first, let's go ahead and get started. Today's show is brought to you by Lots of Rain. Use code DGD at checkout to get 10% off your purchase site-wide. Also, feel free to hop in the Discord, free Discord, discord.gg/Bones Brigade. Join it today, talking March Madness, all types of stuff. Also, get intel over on Patreon, patreon.com/DGD Podcast. Patrick Oliver saying, go Dogs. Listen, guys, we're going to talk a little bit about Georgia's Pro Day. We're going to talk about the NFL free agency. It's going to be interesting. Let's just be honest. It's going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting, right? Everybody keeping up with it. Listen, it's a wild time. That's all I'm going to say. Wild times. But let's first here jump in. Georgia Pro Day, 32 teams in attendance. And honestly, rightfully so. This defense coming off a national title. Man, oh man, oh man. What a crazy time to be alive. As always, roots here at How About 'em. 4 dogs in the first round. Look, you could honestly see 5, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. But that Pro Day, a lot of takeaways here. I think, people when they watched Pro Day, definitely were concerned about Nakobe Dean not testing as well, not looking like himself, and there was a pec strain that Coach Smart had mentioned. Listen, I don't think that impacts teams. Honestly, I just don't see that. And Darian Kendrick, I think you could take away, the slower 40 time. How is that going to impact him in the draft? Honestly, I see a little bit of a fall there. For his size, I think you had to hit in the 4.5s, 4.6s, and 4.7 is not that pleasant for the eyes in the NFL. So, I think ultimately if the right team will get him, and when that happens, I think you'll definitely see a team. I feel like a zone scheme would be fine for him. We'll see how that goes, though. But look, I think you saw exactly what we saw in the combine. Not a lot of 40s being ran, right? Listen, with how fast those guys ran in Indy, there's no need to run like that. Just going to leave that there. There's no need to run again when you have those that fast. Right? It's not making sense. That's all I'm going to say. And listen, I think it's one of those situations where you see the testing and things like that, and you feel confident that, like Rude said earlier, you're going to see 4 guys, maybe even 5 in the first round. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I can't wait for it, right? I just can't wait now for the draft to see where these guys go, right? And honestly, I think, it's crazy to believe this, but a couple months ago, everybody, within the Georgia, the space could say that, Jordan Davis is going to be the top guy off the board. And now you look back to now, and there's almost a consensus that Trayvon Walker could go top 5, right? These guys at the combine made themselves a ton of money, period. So it'll be interesting to see where these guys go. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So the brigade will sit here and we'll read some comments and tell us tell us where you think some Georgia Bulldogs will go. Patrick asks, does Dean's draft stock drop because he was nursing an injury at Pro Day? I don't think so. I understand that, you don't like to see guys get injured. Honestly, just today, I think at Michigan's Pro Day, David Ajabo was testing or whatever and got hurt. So hopefully it doesn't ding him too much. In regards to Dean, I just don't see Dean's draft stock dropping too much. He's going to go in the first round. I just think, you might see him in the 20s, perhaps early 20s, maybe, depending on what these teams are looking for. You could see him go slightly earlier. But, I think obviously when it comes to the draft and all these other things, I think you really have to look at, projections and team needs, right? Obviously that's the key here. I think Trayvon Walker could go anywhere from, you think of the Houston Texans at 3. You have, the Giants at picks 5 and 7. You could see him go to the 8 at the Falcons, depending on how things go. If number 8 pick there for them stays. And obviously free agency, with it being as wild as it is kind of one of those things. It's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, you have obviously until free agency. Then I think once free agency is over is when we'll really know for sure where we have a good feel where these guys will go. Roots thinks he thinks that any team that is interested aren't worried about his physicals. Talking about Dean there after his football IQ, Luke Kuechly was undersized too. Absolutely, man. There's been several guys that are undersized, but instincts and just watching the tape shows you that these guys are NFL caliber, and I think Dean's one of those guys. So it makes complete sense, and he even said it to himself. He's like, "What are you talking to NFL teams? Watch the tape," and it makes perfect sense. He's not a testing guy. He's put your pads on, go on there on Saturdays and show you what he's about. That's simple as that. But let's talk about Trayvon Walker first. First off, physical freak. There's no question about it. Physical freak. Genetics are just insane, period. There's no question about it. What is it, 6'5", I think 6'5", 272, 4'5", 40, just broad jumping across the country. All these things that, vertical jump is ridiculous. Look, just saying, it's just ridiculous how that works. And honestly, looking at what teams are looking for, I think the Texans, with their need for about anything, obviously it's the Deshaun Watson news whenever it decides to happen, where he goes, that's going to tell you, because if he goes to the Falcons could give up their 8th pick, so the Texans could have 3 and 8, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Obviously, as we go through, we'll find out more. Obviously, if you're curious, I do a mock draft Mondays over there for the Patreon where everybody can see it. So expect a 3.0 Monday per se. Patrick says he likes Walker to the Giants and they love their dogs. Absolutely, man. Obviously, you have Aziz, most recently, Tate Crowder, Lorenzo Carter, Andrew Thomas. So there's a pipeline. There's a pipeline of Georgia dogs over in the Giants franchise. Now, the thing is, how does the new regime there, how do they transfer? How does it translate? I guess you could say, Patrick, because it's gonna tell you, right? And Rude says that would be sick, combining Aziz and Tate Crowder. Listen, if you got Trayvon Walker with those two guys, holy cow, that's all I'm gonna say. Because the edge rushing, you would get to every quarterback pretty easily. And what they have at as edge rushers, this is why Jordan Davis is going to be, in my opinion, should be coveted more than people think. Everybody wants to look at his ability to be 2 downs, and honestly, I kind of scoff at it to some degree. My man could play 3 downs, especially when he's going to get down to 330 range. I think you'll give him the chance to go 3 downs, but at the same time, when he's playing 250, 260, and you're in third and long situations so much, why don't you sit there and take him out and focus on adding another edge rusher or a pass rusher, someone to get to the quarterback? It transferred and it worked perfectly to the tune of a national title. So all this 3 down thing, I understand it, but I'm not 100% sold on the fact that he's just a 2 down guy. I'm just not. I think he has the capability to play 3 downs. But like I said, when Georgia's defense was playing on third and long, get a pass rusher, play an extra cornerback, take him out and put, an extra rusher to get to the quarterback. And we saw what happened, and it works. I mean, it makes sense, right? So obviously, you got to worry about the cardio and different things like that. But listen, his condition at 330 is going to be just fine, guys. It'll be just fine. So, going to that right there, I think wherever he goes, a sim like Mike Tomlin at Pro Day was all on the JD train. So if he were to fall to 20, which honestly I think he's not, I think he goes before 20, but you could definitely see the Steelers make a run for it because he would fit perfectly in Pittsburgh. Simple as that. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. Rudes asked another question: where does JD go with all the attention on Trayvon? Bengals, Chargers with Bosa, Malik, Seattle. I think you could look at Seattle because they will be drafting first, if I'm not mistaken. But depending on how things fall in free agency, do they go with quarterback, right? They've got Drew Lock there that, I don't know what they view him as, but sorry. I don't know how they view him. So you could see Seattle take a quarterback to try to find that one guy. Honestly, this quarterback class is not the one, so we'll see what happens there. But my perfect fit for Jordan Davis is the Chargers. It just makes sense, especially when you see excuse me. So you have, let's see, George. So you got they add Khalil Mack, and then you have Bosa already. They've got help on the secondary. So it just makes sense to me. And the only thing, the question in here is the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken, added defensive tackles, but is it a true nose, or would it be like a Devontae playing a 3-tech kind of thing? That's my question there. And still, honestly, I think the Chargers are the perfect fit for him because they need help in the run really bad. So you do that right there. You get Jordan Davis, that stops the run. And it also opens up the pass rushers. And Khalil Mack running back, if you have Khalil Mack running free because of Jordan Davis, absolutely awful. And let's be honest, the AFC West, if you're not keeping up with the NFL free agency, the AFC West has gone completely bonkers. You're talking about murderer's row. Every team in the AFC West, on paper so far, have just killed free agency. With what they have, it is becoming a gauntlet out west. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens there. I think it's going to be truly telling how things play out. Really telling how they play out. Meanwhile, guys, in the meantime, while we let the brigade talk a little bit more, make sure if you're watching on YouTube, guys, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. That way you can get notifications, ring the bell so you get notified when the show goes live, Monday, Friday. Also, if you're on Facebook, hey, like it, share it, guys. Share it out. With that being said, though, we're going to talk a little bit more about Devonta Wyatt. I think Devonta Wyatt, guys, Devonta Wyatt was a name, I should say. It was a name that was really kind of an afterthought, but still could have high draft value. The combine and his pro day solidified him as being a top tier pick, and honestly, one that's going to fall in, if not the 20s, before that. It's going to be wild. It will. With 300 pounds, running a 4.77, I think it was 3 or 4. I think it was. So, it's one of those things where there's a lot of possibilities here. And it's going to be fun to see, right? I hope that he gets to the right situation. I think you look at Devonta Wyatt, and Rudes brings it up here. He wanted to hear his thoughts on Wyatt's versatility as a true 3-down defensive tackle versus JD size and potential. I think you look at Devonta Wyatt and you look at his capabilities in stopping the run and also, rushing the passer. He might go ahead of Jordan Davis depending on how teams facets of the run game. So with that being said, to answer Rude's question, I think teams covet that. And honestly, I think you're looking at Jordan Davis as a potential pick, right? Like some potential, but definitely some proven commodities here. That's why I think the Chargers at 17 are perfect because with their need for pass or run blocking, I should say, run stoppage, they need help in the run game and run defense. That being said, it makes perfect sense to get a guy like Jordan Davis so that you can sit there and obviously you have elite pass rushers, but stopping the run has been something that they've really struggled, which is why I think with what Jordan Davis is about, his measurables, everything, and the potential of him to help in the run game and potentially even, in the pass game. Listen, everybody knows edge rushers are nice, but if you can get pressure from the inside and collapse the pocket from right up front, that's a whole lot different. That's a different beast. That's a different beast. So in all honesty, I think you look at Jordan Davis, and I think honestly, like I said, the Chargers are a perfect fit. So I think Chargers can stay at 17 and pick him up. But Devonta Wyatt, depending on how teams view the defensive tackle class, you could see, do you see the Eagles pick him up, right? Look, the Eagles just released Fletcher Cox yesterday. Now they're trying to work on getting him back. But if for some happens, maybe that's a guy. Maybe they look at Jordan Davis or Devonta at that point, right? I would like to see Devonta in the Eagles. Or, if he falls a little bit, I think you could see him playing at a team like the Bills, right? Think about Devonta's capabilities with Von Miller. And, the Bills had a situation where they were so close to winning the title or, going to the Super Bowl. But obviously the defense and the edge rusher, which is why them picking up Von Miller is probably going to help them get to the top. But if you put Devonta White in there, that's another guy that can just come right in and play. Obviously the Packers as well. Packers could use him, right? Packers could use Devontae. They could use a defensive guy. But also I think you look, and this is where it's going to get interesting, because we're so faceted on the defense. But if you look at what just happened in Green Bay, you have Aaron Rodgers there. You have an opening in regards to, a receiver, right? And if you're a Packers fan, you understand what I'm about to say. It has been since 2002 when they drafted Trayvon Walker. That's the last time the Packers have drafted a skill position player in the first round. That is ridiculous. That has to change. You just traded Davante Adams. That tells me you need to do your damn due diligence and get a receiver. Depending on what they do with their first pick, they also have the 29th pick, if I'm not mistaken. If they go defense for some reason, they have another shot. Or maybe, who's to say, maybe they get 2 receivers. Why? And honestly, I think George Pickens would be an excellent fit in Green Bay. You have the size, you have the speed. Now, this receiving class is loaded, right? So it would not shock me to say, maybe the Packers want to fall at 29. Maybe Jameson Williams is a guy, right? But if you're looking at a guy that can come in and instantly play and instantly make an impact, there's a reason why I think George Pickens would fit here. So there could be a potential, especially with the Packers losing Devontae to a trade. They get that first-round pick. Now they got 2 first-rounders. It would make sense for me to believe that George Pickens could even side up in the first round. It really could. And I've also thought that Lewis Seen would be a good pickup there as well, or Devontae. I'd love to see a Georgia player get picked at Green Bay, right? You look at Eric Stokes, his success as a rookie in Green Bay, did very well in coverage, things like this. So there's a lot of upside to him. Maybe Green Bay could look at that and say, hey, look, just got a cornerback here. They know what's going on. He's done us well. Maybe you look at a Seen. Or, like I said, go to Pickens. We'll read back into the brigade here. Eagles would be a fantastic spot for Wyatt or JD after releasing Fletcher Cox. And honestly, Rudes, after that, if the Eagles are not able to get him back, I definitely think the Eagles at 15 could probably – 15 or 16, because they have 15, 16, and 19. You could definitely see one of these guys go if they're there, which I think JD would probably still be there. Devontae would, I think, definitely be there. They need an edge rusher, but at the same time, if you lose your defensive tackle, and Fletcher Cox has been very, very dominant, I'm just saying you need to replace him. If you don't sign him back, you need to replace him. And with 3 picks in the top 20, because they're 15, 16, 19 right now currently, it would make perfect sense for him to get one of those guys to get drafted. Honestly, you could look at Jermaine Johnson fitting as well. Even though he's a Florida State, he was a former Dog, so keep that in mind. There could be some Jermaine Johnson love for Eagles as well. Rudes also asks, is Georgia legit first-round talent? With the speed he saw at the combine, not sure George Pickens will go as high as expected earlier in the year. And Rudes, I think you could definitely see – I think there's a potential for a first-round talent. I definitely think he's talented enough to be first-round. I think it's where the team needs fall, right? Obviously the draft is built – you have to watch out for runs. Right, position runs. So, you look at guys like Olave and Jameson Williams, Ohio State's receivers, you've got several guys. So I definitely think he's a legit first-round talent. It's just a matter of how the chips fall, right? He's not going to go in the top half of the draft, but I think he could slide up into the back half. You look at Green Bay at 29, depending on what they do with their first of the 2 draft picks, definitely could sit there and look at it as well. We need a receiver. So I would be shocked if Aaron Rodgers isn't sitting here evaluating the receiving class and looking at, hey, look, I want this guy. I want my options. Because with what you invested into Aaron Rodgers, it would be stupid as an organization not to get him some help, for one, but to get his opinion on it. He did a 4-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Get his opinion. He did very well with Devontae. Listen, if you're the Packers, don't sit here and wait, for the second, the third rounds even though you could. Show Aaron Rodgers you're supporting him, and he's said it in years past where it'd be nice to have some help in the first round, but he doesn't. They draft offensive linemen, which is understandable. Defensive help, and then the 1 year that I think a couple years back when they drafted Jordan Love, it shook everybody because at the time there was receivers out there that you could have picked up and got him help, right? But when you go and draft his heir apparent, what is that? That puts out a bad vibe. So if this year is the year that you have to sit here and get Aaron Rodgers some help. He's got one title, multiple MVPs. Get him some help. And there's so much value in this draft that you need to sit here. First off, you afford the first round pick. Get one of those. They better be a receiver. Whether it's Pickens or not, it better be a receiver. It'd be nice if it was Pickens. But then you also have those the mid rounds, things like that. Makes perfect sense to go draft him. Aaron and George Pickens would be too strong in the possession receiver he needs now. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? You see George, you running a 4.4 flat, 4.4 range. But then also at 6'3", and watching his tape, you see he can run routes, excellent blocker. And honestly, I'm sitting here looking at it in a sense of, I think it'd be a good fit, right? Depending on where he goes. So that's where I'm at right now. So I definitely think George Pickens would be a good fit, honestly. And maybe they pick something, like I said, at 29. Maybe they get a receiver. Jameson Williams could go to it would make sense for Jameson Williams to go to the Patriots, right? The Patriots have a couple needs there. But given JMO and Mac Jones a reunion, I think Bill Belichick would kind of be wise to do that. And Bill Belichick knows how it goes. I think that he does very valuable. He's good at drafting, right? Him and Kraft are good at drafting. So maybe you see George Pickens in there, and honestly, stay tuned to the mock draft. And I'll show you what I'm talking about Monday, guys. You'll understand. I think you'll enjoy it. So we got a linebacker comparison now. Trayvon is a true edge rusher versus Aziz, I'm assuming Aziz last year that could play in space and rush. It's a good one, buddy. I think you look at Trayvon. Trayvon at Georgia could do it all. He was, excellent at setting the edge, and that's another thing that Aziz as well. They're basically very similar in this. I think Aziz can play better in space, right? I think he's just built to do that. But listen, Trayvon, we know he can do both. Right? He can do it all. We saw him set the edge. We saw him, attack the point of attack. Right, we're pulling guards. Michigan game comes to mind. Something that I think when he gets into the NFL, right? I think when Trayvon enters the NFL, it's going to be key to see how the defense, where he goes, uses him. I think Georgia used him all over the place, whereas, Trayvon's going to be used as a pass rusher here, more than likely. So, is he going to be used in the run as much? I think you need to at that point, but if you want him to focus on the edge, I think that's really where you're really going to see that potential get tapped, Ruse, where Trayvon's worthy of a top 10 pick because he, what he did, stats, you can't look at stats with this defense. All right. This is the one defense that you cannot look at stats because Jordan Davis had so much impact with minimal stats. Trayvon Walker didn't have as many sacks as people would think, but he was that dominant, because everybody was getting to the quarterback. So I think, if you put him as a true edge rusher at 6'5", 6'6", look, you saw what he did against, some of the best talent that we played in the biggest games, right? Just long arming guys, getting them out of the way and getting to the quarterback. So the right situation, if he goes that early, I think you have to look at a team wanting him to be that guy, right? If he goes to the Texans, I think that's the key. That's just the key there, right? He's going to be the guy. But if he goes to the Giants and you have Aziz and you have Tay Crowder, and that's where it's going to get really interesting, right? It's where it's going to get really interesting because now you add another piece to that, and it'll be very fun to watch. Very fun to watch. All right, Roots, have fun at those meetings, my man. That sounds painful, guys. Looking at it though here, obviously you got Nakobe Dean. We'll talk a little bit about Nakobe, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Nakobe, everybody wants to sit there and try to ding him for, not running 40s, and, at the combine he didn't test, he just did interviews. I think if you follow Nakobe enough, you understand that he is a true pads guy, right? You put on the tape, you understand what he's about. He's not going to test well, so it'd be pointless, and it would actually be a little bit detrimental for him to do that. So when you see him at his pro day, and he doesn't really do much, but he does the field drills, and he was hampered a little bit. The NFL, I think, understands with him. Put on the tape, and you'll completely understand what you're getting as a linebacker. And obviously, I think you look at teams with Nakobe. You could look at the Eagles with Nakobe. I think that would be an interesting pickup because they do need a linebacker. But, at the same time, what about the Steelers at 20? Because you have the Patriots that could use them at 21. You also have the Cowboys, if they really want to open up Micah Parsons at 23 or 24. I think 24 maybe. So you're looking, you look at Nakobe Dean, and right in the 20s range, early to mid 20s is a perfect spot for him to go. There's just so many teams there that could use a linebacker, right? I think if you put him in yellow and black, it would be, the instincts kind of reminds me of a guy that you would fit well, right? Definitely think that Pittsburgh will be a good fit for him. It obviously depends on what Pittsburgh needs. But if not, like I said, the Eagles, the Patriots right behind them. Patriots could use a linebacker. And Bill Belichick loves him some damn Georgia Bulldogs right now. He knows, because he knows these guys are NFL ready. It's just proven. So you can see that, you could definitely, honestly, the Eagles at 19. If they wanted to, you could do the Eagles at 19, the Steelers at 20, Patriots at 21, and then the Cowboys, I think, at 24. And then really, I don't know about the Bills, but you maybe look at the Bills getting a defensive guy to really help, to help the defense. Like you said, Nakobe Dean is a field general, period. There's no question about it. He's a field general. He's gonna make your defense better, just, obviously just as you see what happens. But I think the instincts right here is really going to help. He's a good run stuffer. He's able to cover, right? Everybody wants to worry about his 40, but look what he did against Blake Corum in the Orange Bowl. Guys, think about that, right? He's athletic enough to cover, period. Now, obviously, you got to worry about slotting and things like that, but his instincts are what's going to keep him on the field and really be have the longevity as a linebacker. It just makes sense. You could say he's undersized, but like you said, Patrick said earlier, Luke Kuechly was undersized, and Luke Kuechly was a damn good player for the Panthers. Probably one of their best linebackers, period, right? Outside of Thomas Davis. Go Dogs there. But there's just so much. There's so much that you could sit there and see, with all the guys in the rounds here. There's a lot to talk about. We're going to wrap it up here for the show part, and then stick around for a little Q&A. But with that being said, though, guys, have a great weekend. Catch you on the next episode, and go Dogs. And we are back. So as we were saying before we ended the show up here, I think you really got to pay attention to what teams are doing in free agency, right? That's where I want to go finish, keep continuing here. Free agency is really telling, right? Obviously, Jordan Davis, I've been told, I think that the Chargers are the perfect fit. But what about the Ravens at 14? Depending on what's available at the position at spot 14, would it make sense? Would it make sense for the Ravens to pick Jordan Davis? Could it be? Maybe. I think there was a reason that you could do that. I think you look at what they need, and definitely when you look at it, I think defensive help is what they're looking for. But do they value a cornerback? Do they value an edge rusher? Because they were supposed to sign Darian Smith. Obviously, he backed out, so we'll see what happens with that. Do they sign a defensive tackle, a true run block, right? Because if you look at the AFC North, this is why I think edge rusher could be key here. Maybe a Devonta White could fall at 14. Hell, you never know. Sit there, somebody to be able to stop the run and also sit there and rush the passer. Look, Devonta Wyatt's a dude. All right, Devonta Wyatt is a dude. There's no question about it. It makes sense to have defensive help, and Georgia players in this first round could be immediate gap, like team need that they fill, right? It's easy to say that. Where do these guys go? Obviously, we'll see what free agency leads to. I think that you see, I think you could see Trayvon going, in the top 10. I think he's a top 10 lock at this point. There's several instances of what happens. Obviously, there's just too many pieces left right now in free agency that are unsigned to really solidify anything, I guess you could say. But it would not surprise me to see Trayvon go to anybody from the Texans to the Giants, maybe even the Falcons. Could it be the year that Falcons fans, could it be? Falcons actually draft a Georgia player? I think it's been Akeem Dent was the last Georgia player that Atlanta drafted. Could they do it? Honestly, I don't know, because they need some receiver help, and we'll see what happens there. What do they do? They need some help in general, but it is what it is. If you're a Falcons fan, could this be the time you sit there and get an edge rusher? You got AJ Terrell, and you just picked up another corner. Was it Casey Hayward, I think it was, or something like that yesterday? Maybe you pick up a guy like Trayvon Walker to be the face of your defense, or Jordan Davis. Because if Deshaun Watson goes, you could see Grady Jarrett go and part of that trade. So if that's the case, maybe you look at Jordan Davis to be that guy, or a Devonta Wyatt possibly. If Trayvon's there, do you get Trayvon? Right? Good questions. This, in my opinion, if you're a Georgia fan and you're a Falcons fan as well, at the together, you're rooting for a Georgia player to get picked, whether they pick in the first round or whatever happens. This is the right year to do it, because the Falcons' holes fit what Georgia's putting out, and they're really good at it. So you're going to see what the Falcons are going to do. I think it makes sense for them to actually take a Georgia kid again. I really do. But Deshaun Watson can break the internet when he signs or whatever, when he tells us where it's going. Definitely going to keep it up there, so we'll see what happens there. But obviously, I think, keep up with the mock draft here. Check it out check out Mock Draft Monday. It's going to be 3.0 Monday. If you're curious where to find that, pop it right back here. Patreon.com/DGD Podcast. Definitely worth looking there. Up and see what happens over the weekend in free agency. Come back Monday, might talk a little bit more about what happened in free agency and talk about some spring practice as well. A lot of visitors coming in today, folks. A lot of visitors been here this week. Plethora of guys coming in over the weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that, try to find a little recap on Monday. See what happened with the visitors. Arch Manning, it might be a name that you want to keep up with. Dylan Raiola out of 2024 class is going to be here. Tons of guys going to be here. So keep up with that. We'll keep back on Monday. Have a great day. Go Dogs.